All right, I think we're live.
Awesome.
And I am live here with ModBot, and ModBot is coming to us live from California.
Yep.
And if you're not familiar with his channel, I'm going to let him introduce himself and what he has been working on recently. And then we're going to say what you have coming up till the end of the live stream.
Cool. Sounds good. Well, thank you, Chris. Yeah, as mentioned, my name is Daniel, and I've got the YouTube channel ModBot. I've been making YouTube videos for a really long time, I think 7-ish years now. And I got really heavily involved with 3D printing in 2014. As of lately, I think like everybody else around here, I've been trying to help out a lot with the whole PPE initiative. So I've been doing some of that on my laser as well as on 3D printers. And playing a lot with resin lately. Resin's something that I dove into last year, and this year I've really gotten my hands on with a lot of resins and playing around with a lot of different ones. So that's been a ton of fun. But yeah, on my channel, I do a lot of 3D printing reviews, upgrades, tips and tricks, tutorials, things of that nature. So I'm really excited to be on this live stream. Thank you for having me.
Hey, no problem. So as I was just telling him, I was just recently introduced to his work because he did a terrific interview and terrific live stream with Uncle Jesse, who I'm a big fan of. I've been watching for a number of years here. I really am into the cosplay mixed with the 3D printing, and he does a terrific job on all of that content.
Yeah.
So
it's awesome.
Yeah, he's got an amazing channel where he talks not only about 3D printing and cosplay, but also about Marvel props and toys, and so we're gonna, I guess, pimp Uncle Jesse's channel for him, even though he's not here, because he really does a good job. And
I'll second all that as well. I was telling Chris that I've always been a huge fan too and love his content and his energy. But after the live stream, I was just like, yes, this confirms everything I thought in my head. He is an awesome individual, and I pumped on all the content he's been putting out lately. So, and we've got a lot of it coming. He said that he's going really heavy with it for the next 30 days. So that's exciting.
Yeah. So I think he must be, on some sort of furlough or something.
Yeah, I would say
of what we're all dealing with here. I'm lucky enough to be already a work from home guy. So
awesome.
it actually did not change my work schedule at all.
So when you saw people talking about how to adjust to the at-home life, you're just kind of like, this is just my regular routine.
The biggest adjustment is I don't have to get up at 6 a.m. anymore to get my son to school, and that's been actually a huge plus.
Oh yeah, I bet.
So, I've enjoyed that. I've enjoyed the extra sleep, although that's probably made me stay up later. So I'm only getting a little bit more extra sleep.
Yep.
But yeah, so you talked about resin printing. I've got my first resin printer over here on the floor that I've been dying to get to, but I have other obligations like printers that are sitting here on the table just off camera.
Is it a secret what the resin printer is, or can you say what it is?
I've told people on some of my live streams. I think that's the only place I've revealed it, but it is it's Creality's.
Oh,
resin
nice.
Printer, the LD002R.
Sick. Okay. Yeah.
So they sent me that one, and I spent like $100 on supplies to be able to print with it.
haven't done anything with it yet because you're busy.
Yeah, because I'm busy, and I take, when someone sends me a printer and says they want it up by a certain time or whatever, I try to take that seriously. And so I'm going to go ahead and count the next one I've got. This thing's heavy. So this is an ECube Maker. Was it toy DIY 4-in-1?
I reviewed that. I don't know if you saw it or not.
I didn't see yours. I saw that a couple of.
Yeah.
I think I saw the 3D Print General did one recently. So
yeah.
You have one of these.
Yeah. I ended up giving it to a buddy of mine, but because I'm in a small apartment. I've got so much limited space. But it was funny. So he got his around the same time as me. I posted a video on Twitter, and he reached out and was like, "Hey, I'm reviewing that right now." And he posted his video probably, I think 2 or 3 days before me, and I really wanted to watch it, but I didn't want it to influence my review. So I was like, no, I want to know what your opinion was, because I spent a lot of time testing out the different heads on it and stuff like that. But I try to avoid watching other reviews on a printer if I know that I'm going to be reviewing it, just because I do my best to be completely as transparent and give it a clean slate. But seeing something, you're like, oh, I didn't think of that, or I didn't want to do that. So Yeah, I'm excited to see what kind of stuff you do with it. Certainly.
So same sort of deal. I don't know. I think I started out with the ideas kind of like you just said, where you don't want to see them ahead of time.
Yeah.
You don't want, but I don't feel like the bias is real strong. I don't really have any. I don't feel a great sense of obligation to anyone that just wants me to review their hardware.
Sure.
I mean, no money's exchanging hands or anything like that.
Never.
So I don't think I necessarily let it affect me too much. But I'm the same way. If they've said something that I might miss, or if I've had a different experience, maybe it will make me go and double check what I'm seeing to make sure that I haven't screwed up, because I want to make sure that what I'm presenting is as honest and fair as possible.
Yeah. And well, the thing is too, I've seen people's reviews where like I'll review something and have an amazing experience. Someone else reviews something and have a terrible experience. And it's not that their review is wrong. Like that was their experience with it, and that's fine. Like if I had, in some situations, if I had gotten the machine that showed up banged up, or if I had gotten the machine that showed up and did whatever, like I absolutely would have had the same experience. So I think that, again, and also with me too, whenever I do review, there's no obligation other than, hey, I'll get this out and try to do it. Like this is my time frame, and that's about it. And I'm always willing to give feedback to the manufacturer, but I've had a couple times where I've had them say, hey, can we watch it beforehand? And I'm like, that's not really, like I usually tell them like, sorry, when it goes live, it's live. Or like, sometimes I'll just make up an excuse like, oh, it's private until it's public. Like they have no way, like, or whatever. But I just, granted, sometimes they maybe just want to see if there's misinformation, but it just doesn't feel right to me, like to my fans, to be showing the manufacturer, like I don't know, not that I would change it, but it just doesn't feel right to me.
Yeah, I won't show them the video, but I do interact during my review process if I'm really having a problem with it, or if something seems off, or why did mine show up in this condition. I will interact with them and let them know what I'm seeing, to find out, is there something I'm doing wrong? Is there something that your instructions, this is a known firmware issue? That kind of stuff I am willing to discuss with them ahead of time, because I think that there's value in, I had this problem and I corrected this problem, because they, the viewer may also have that same sort of, experience as they're, encountering it. Yeah. And rather than just leaving it with the viewer that, hey, it's broken, this doesn't work right, this is a crappy printer, I'd much rather leave them with a solution. Yeah,
this is the area that I had, but I reached out, they said this, or they, I typically do the same too. Like if I receive a printer and there's something that seems wrong to me, I'll say, hey, this is what's going on. Like, what's your opinion? And there's most of the time the manufacturers I work with are pretty cool. I've had a few, like there was one where I won't name drop because I don't feel that's necessary, but I had a machine that I received and the power supply was dead on arrival, and I let them know right away, like, hey, this thing is not getting any juice. I showed them with my multimeter that, look, there's no voltage output, and they kept basically like wanting me to do all this crazy stuff so that way they can go back to their PSU manufacturer, their vendor. And I was like, come on, guys, like I received the machine and it's dead on arrival. Like if you guys are haggling me, who's supposed to be the reviewer that you guys probably want to say positive stuff about, I can only imagine that if it was a person that just purchased it, they would have as hard of a time, if not harder. So on that one, I basically just said, like, I can't review a dead printer. And so I think I made a video on it just saying, hey, like, this is the features of it, and unfortunately I'm not able to test it because this has been my experience. And like, but again, like if something is wrong, I understand that, things being shipped, like they get damaged in shipping, updates come out, things happen, man. And so totally, before like I'm pretty nice about my reviews and try to look on the positive, but I'm not blind to the negative. But totally, I'll always give the manufacturer the benefit of the doubt and say, hey, this is what's going on, like, can we correct this, or what is your opinion on it? So yeah, there's nothing wrong, I don't think, with working with the manufacturer. I mean, even, for example, like even like E3D is a huge manufacturer that everyone, like so many people love, and they had issues with their Hemera when it launched, and people reached out and they corrected it. So it happens.
I think the feedback is more valuable than the negative review.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, 100%. I agree with that. So how far are you into the review of that machine, out of curiosity?
I am all the way through the printer part, and I'm actually going to be releasing the printer review separate from the laser and engraver review part of it. And that's just because I can spend a lot of time on the printer part. And, I know how review attention spans are, and they vary.
Yeah.
So I wanted to kind of separate the printer part of it, because you could just buy this as a printer.
Yep.
And separate that from the other tool heads that it comes with.
Agreed. And I will say with that one, and I'm sure you've experienced that as well, but my review process of messing with that printer or that machine, whatever you want to call it, the 3-in-1 or 4-in-1, it was a lot more involved than most other machines I review, because of the fact that each tool head is almost like its own entity, you know, like so when I was done with the printing side, I was like, whew, okay, the laser stuff. And I was like, okay, all right, like there's so much. And so
that's a lot to fit into one review, as you know.
Majorly. So
without just cutting it up and going, okay, I'm going to give this 10 minutes and give that 10 minutes. And,
no, it's really tough. I think I ended up shoving it all into one, but that was with heavy scissor, like, you know, cutting out lots of stuff where I'm like, I don't know about that. But yeah, if you certainly, like, there could be someone that's like, hey, I just want like a kind of budget, like laser, like diode based laser thing. Like, how does it work for that? How's the software? So yeah, it's really nice for someone to be able to just jump in and, hey, I'm not interested in the printing side, or that's all I want. I don't have to jump through all the other, you know, jargon, if you will, to get to what I want. So no, that's awesome. I look forward to seeing it, because the only people I really know that have used it is myself, the 3D printing general, and I saw like one other person that had played around with it. So I'll be curious to see what your experience has been like with the printing head.
Yeah, I mean, just spoilers. I've actually found it to be really, really good.
Awesome.
So, I mean, for if you're looking for something that's similar to like the new Prusa Mini, it's definitely kind of in line with that printer. Plus, this thing comes fully assembled.
Yeah.
The only thing you have to do is put on the head. So I can't complain about that.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that it's a solid like aluminum frame, and it's got, I believe it had linear rails at least, didn't it? In the X?
Yeah.
So
X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, so that was impressive to me. So yeah, there's definitely some positive. I won't spoil your whole review for this.
No, that's fine. No, I don't mind talking about it. I mean, I put enough into my review that I hope we can't talk about it in 15 minutes.
Yeah. That means that something's not right,
the live stream. But let's go on, because we could chat about all the stuff we've reviewed in the past. But I said that the topic for this, I'm going to have to refresh here too in a minute. But I said that the topic was going to be 3D printer modding.
Yep.
And I think a lot of my viewers are used to coming to my channel for that information, because I started, I guess, about a year and a half ago at this point, almost a year and a half or year and a few months at this point. And I started with the Ender 5, moved up to the Ender 5 Plus, and I've done a few odds and ends printer reviews in the middle there from people that have sent me, manufacturers that have sent me them. But that's been most of my channel. It actually, as I've told people that have watched the live streams before, that wasn't my goal. I'd never planned on being a 3D printing review channel.
Yeah.
The mods was part of it for sure, though, because I really like to spend a lot of time modding printers. I think that my first printer I ever got was an ANET A8. And the only thing you could pretty much do with that printer was mod it, at least for the first month or two. Because out of the box, it wasn't the best printer. But if you spent some time on it, if you printed all the extra parts for it, if you replaced the board, replaced the power supply, if you pretty much kept the frame.
Yeah. Maybe the motors. Yeah.
But you know what? I won't knock the printer, though, because it was a terrific learning printer.
Yep.
You know, the money that you spent on it, that was the equivalent of the Ender 3 these days.
Yeah.
When I bought that one, because it was the only $150 printer on the market.
Yep.
Right. And so for me, that was the start of 3D printing modding, was day one.
Yep.
Because day one, this printer needed some parts. It wasn't even safe out of the box. You had to install a MOSFET day one, or you would burn up the board.
I remember seeing all of the Reddit posts and all the posts everywhere, people showing their terminal blocks just, fried.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's crazy. Yeah.
So that's how I got started. I think that was really a good intro. And one of the worst performing videos I've done on my channel, but was a big learning experience for me, was putting together a Delta from scratch.
Oh geez, yeah,
that was huge. It took, man, I had at least 8 hours into that printer. Just one day, it was a day off, or it was a weekend, and I just sat here at this table and I built a printer for 8 hours straight, and then I had to edit it to where it wasn't complete garbage. But it was just,
it's brutal.
I've had it was it was one of those things like, no, I don't think people want to sit and watch someone build a printer for even 4 hours.
No, that's a long. Unless you're watching it live in the moment and interacting, to just go back and jump through that much, like it's. I think people would see that the timestamp or time in the bottom left of the video and be hesitant to click on it because that's a lot. That's a huge chunk of time.
Yeah, I try to put timestamps in as much as possible for things like that. I think that's definitely a good way to try to help people out because,
I need to get better.
as a YouTuber, you want the watch time, but you also want you want them to be more helpful.
Yeah,
and so that's what I do with my reviews, particularly if they're 30 minutes or more long. Then I try to do that. But
no, I think that's a great idea.
Again, we're getting off topic. So you tell me, so how did you start out? I know you said your background was the ModBot, I believe, came from modding video games or video game systems.
Yeah. So back many, many years ago, I bought an Xbox and my Xbox broke. And so I wanted to learn how to fix it. And I went to YouTube. And at the time, I saw a bunch of videos that to me didn't make a lot of sense. And so I did a lot of research online and ended up figuring out how to repair through like reflowing a GPU on an Xbox, like the Red Ring of Death is what it was on that console. And so then I got really involved in modding. So like hardware installs, things of that nature. And throughout all that time, I was making tutorials, basically taking what seemed really complicated in Forum Post and making it into like bite-sized visual portions where like maybe just a regular person could do it. And they don't have to have some like crazy knowledge of electronics. So that's how I got started. And I really enjoyed being able to help people just to accomplish repairs and mods and stuff like that. And I also have a major love for retro gaming, so like all cartridge-based systems essentially is kind of like my sweet spot. And I got a 3D printer initially because I wanted to make portable, like handheld retro consoles, so like portable NES or N64s and stuff like that. And so I got a 3D printer many, many years ago. I think it was 2014, and it was a DaVinci 1.0. So an XYZ DaVinci 1.0. It was the only printer I could afford, and I saved up. It was like $500, and that machine crapped out nearly instantly, and support was near minimum. There wasn't very much documentation compared to what there is now, and there wasn't nearly as big of an active live community. Like I really couldn't find too much help online other than forums, of course, because those are pretty much always there. So I went ahead and had to board swap the printer from the standard board to a Ramps and Arduino board, and that taught me so much about 3D printing. Like, before that machine, I was like, "Oh, this is alien technology!" Like like a caveman with fire for the first time. And once I did the board swap, which was not easy for me, it took a ton of work understanding like what are these drivers. Okay, I've never used Arduino IDE before, and things like that. I became pretty obsessed with it, and all of that love that I had for upgrading and modifying consoles now became like 3D printers. Like this is it. I like the fact that they're able to make things is amazing, but the fact that they're so hackable and upgradable was just like, yes, that was totally it for me. That was what really did it for me. And
well, that's kind of the I guess the revolution of 3D printing came when all of those patents and everything ran out, and then things finally could be commoditized.
Yeah, and I don't think that was really too much further before 2014. I mean, I think it was early 2010s, 2012s, maybe.
Yeah,
something like
I don't remember exactly what year, and it was kind of a series of patents because different companies own different, parts of the printer.
Yeah, exactly. And so yeah, then it kind of clicked to me like I've been known for modding stuff, and I got really burnt on modding the Xboxes because I just did so much, and I was like, it was regurgitated. The same thing. I'm like, okay, there's nothing new. Like I need something that I can grow with and learn with. And so yeah, 3D printing just kind of fell into place. And kind of how you mentioned your build, I went ahead and live streamed my first full kit printer, which I got about a year and a half after, which was the Fulgertech 2020. It was basically like a 20 mil i3 clone that I got off of eBay like years and years and years ago, and I live streamed it for 8 hours straight, like just in front of the camera, sweating.
Which is what I should have done with that printer.
Right.
Then people would have popped in and out, and I would have had someone to talk to.
Yeah. So at
that
least
was in the middle of summer. I was just sitting here sweating.
Oh,
it was terrible.
What state are you out of?
Georgia.
Oh, geez. Yeah, I couldn't imagine. I mean, in Southern California, it does get pretty hot in summers, but it's a different type of heat. I couldn't even imagine. But yeah, I was sitting there just live streaming. And to be honest with you, like it was pretty terrible. Like I was really frustrated. Things were missing. The wiring aspect was completely different. And that machine though taught me like that was basically the turning point from a little bit about 3D printers to like, okay, like I get what does what makes everything turn. And that machine I upgraded very heavily. But basically what's gotten me into all this is I've always wanted to try to stick with machines that I think are budget friendly, because really like my love for this technology comes from like regular people being able to use it. Like I think it's awesome.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
I think it's awesome in all aspects, whether it's in a company or medical. Like it's doing amazing things, the different technologies. But for me, it's just like the average Joe that has a hobby, that's fixing something around the house, that's doing cool stuff. Like that's what I like. And for a lot of us, like the multi-$1,000 printers are just not attainable. So it's always been for me about like, let's take something that's affordable and let's make it better. Let's make it better, or let's make it ours. And that's why I even like mods that are just RGB LEDs or stuff like that.
Yeah,
I'm just like, this looks sick, and like, does it do anything? Like, no, it's not.
Particularly when you have these new boards like the I've got it here, the turbo, the 1.4 turbo.
Oh, the BQ, right? Or Big Tree. Yeah,
the Big Tree Tech, and it's got ports on this thing already for that. It's
awesome.
got the RGB LED like built right in.
So sick,
so
man.
You can build it right into your Marlin and change colors right on your display, that kind of thing. Which, I mean, those are, like you're saying, I mean, we talk a lot about the mods that increase your printing quality, linear rails, or the exo slide or whatever, and we talk about changing out the functional parts. But my previous life before 3D printing, it was PC modding. Was nice. A lot of PC work. And so, cutting windows into the side of your computer before they made cases that had windows, adding the LEDs and the LED strips. And we were doing, what were those things? The cold cathode tubes.
Those are sick, man. Yeah.
That's and this was, at this point, this was 15 years ago.
Yep.
When I was doing the PC modding, and a lot of that has come back around, that it's not only a functional piece, it's kind of an expression.
Yeah.
I mean, so when I look at some of let's just talk about the Ender 5s, because those models are the ones I know, and those groups that I'm a part of on like Facebook, like half the mods are just people putting plastic all over their printer in different ways. Awesome. Yeah. Like here are corner pieces. What do? Well, they look really cool, and they can say things like that they protect me from ever running into the bearings or what. I'm like, I've never run into a bearing.
That doesn't happen.
So but again, I think it's important. Like, what color filament did you use to make all those mods? Did you do you like the aftermarket cooling, or do you stick with stock here, but you won't touch stock there? That kind of thing. It does remind me of the PC modding craze, because I think it is kind of a expression of like who you are and your your aesthetic sensibilities.
No, I completely agree. And even back when, like, I never did full-blown PC case mods, but what I used to do a lot of was with 360s, adding windows and cutting out custom stuff. So yeah, I totally, like, it's just, you look at it and it's something that you're like, it's like a sense of pride almost. Like, like that's fine, So I mean, and like I've seen I've seen some people that are doing like the Bear upgrades for their Prusa machines, and they've got the like crazy anodized. Like I saw one the other day that someone posted that was like rainbow anodized aluminum, which like it doesn't do anything, but damn, does that look cool? It's so cool looking, these crazy looking builds that people are doing out there.
It was funny because I think one of the comments that caught me the most when I was doing the ExoSlide review were the number of people that commented that the extrusion was not black. And that bothered them, that the extrusions on the rest of the printer are black, but he's shipping silver, the silver, the standard extrusions, and that bothered people. It's like, that doesn't look right. And so I very, calmly said, well, I kind of like it, because to me it like shows that piece is upgraded. That piece now stands out on my printer as an upgraded part, because the rest of it's black. And since it is such a black mod in terms of like the exo slides are black, and the 90-degree angle things he puts on there, those exo mounts or whatever he calls them, those are black. Like, it would just all blend back in. And
Yeah.
again, if that's what you're looking for, then that's great. But, you know, it kind of stands out now that this piece is different than the rest.
I think that it's majorly, you know, it's one of those like personal preference thing. Like it's like, you know, you take two guys that like cars. The one guy has his car where it's all just blacked out and like just as non-noticeable as possible. The other guy's got like bright rims and stuff like that. And it's not to say that like one's better than the other, but it's just kind of a personal preference. But I will say, like, I mean, talking about the aesthetic of printers, you know, the reason why that like design engineers are a thing, like people that want like having a product or having a thing that looks aesthetically pleasing is really important. I mean, you can have a product that functions great, but if it looks terrible, like to a lot of people are like, I don't know, like so looks do, you know, make a difference as far as like human nature. So when it comes to like printers making it look awesome, again, it's a sense of like, I used to like add LEDs to all of my machines, and yeah, it lighted up the build area, but I also just could turn on my lamp in the room. You know, I did it because I love seeing the little LED strip on there. So, you know, it's rad.
And it's funny because as big on the lighting and everything that I was in the PC mod arena, because like literally like spotlights and like, light everything up. I haven't done that on any of my printers. And again, it's that personal sensibilities of, you know, I like being able to see my print. Yeah. And if I put red and green and blue and all these other color LEDs, then all of a sudden I really can't see my print. Like I'll put some bright lights on it, but they're going to be white. Yeah. So that I can see my print in the middle of the night when I wake up in a cold sweat, wondering if my print's still going. Because I do that. I've got, you know, I've got cameras on all of them, and I can just in the middle of the night flip it on and see if it's still going.
OctoPrint, is that, I was going to ask, is OctoPrint what you're using to monitor them, or?
Yeah, I use OctoPrint on all of them, and it's really good. Now, the only thing I've changed recently is I was using OctoPrint for everything. It's such a good workflow to be able to sit there from Cura, go print to OctoPrint, and it just send it over the network, and just go. But one thing I noticed is that, and I haven't been able to account for it, and that's one of the reasons that I've changed, is that I had a few prints that the print quality wasn't as good going through OctoPrint as it was going from SD.
Interesting.
And I haven't tracked it down. I haven't had time to sit there and like pull all the plugins out and see is it one of the plugins. And so instead of that, I just go straight to SD, print off of SD, let the printer do its thing. And what's great about OctoPrint is OctoPrint can monitor the status and everything just as if it was printing.
Yeah, no, I love it.
And so to me, it only changes how you get the file to the printer, but it doesn't change the actual print process. You know, I can still monitor the percentage through. And the other thing is I got a, I don't know if it was an email or a message or, you know, I get contacted a bunch of ways, but someone was asking like, okay, well, if you put OctoPrint on there, I noticed my power resume no longer works.
Interesting.
Like, because, you know, some of these Crowdy printers come with the built-in firmware where if you pull the plug, it goes, do you want to resume when the power comes back on?
And it reads from the SD card.
Right. And it can't do that. There's no two-way communications really for OctoPrint loses everything when it shuts down. Yeah. Because it's memory resident, right?
Yep.
And so when it shuts down, you have to start over. So it was really that's another thing. I'm like, okay, that's a very good point also. It's like if I want to use my resume features that are built into Marlin, well, I need to print from SD.
Yeah. So it's
then I can resume.
Yeah, so it's definitely, it's give and take when it comes to that. I didn't think about that. I've rarely, to be fair, I've rarely had to use the power. Like, I don't know, like where I live, knock on wood, though, like power has been really good. Where I lived before was an older neighborhood, and we did get all sorts of brownouts, and so it was nice having that functionality. But for me, like in general, at least when I was running a farm at one point, I really loved OctoPrint for monitoring everything that was going on. It just made it so simple to just do it all from one location. And yeah, it's really, it's crazy how far it's come too. I mean, it's such an actively developed thing, and with all the plugins, like it's awesome. And then I don't know if you got a chance to see, I saw Chris Riley's actually in the chat, but OctoFarm is something that is
there
super
he is.
cool. Yeah, there he is. What's up, Chris? have you got a chance to play around with OctoFarm at all? It's something I've been seeing quite a bit around that's like really gotten my attention because there's not, as far as I know, too many print farm solutions for monitoring mass amounts of printers in one centralized location.
Yeah, I haven't used it yet. I've seen different people review it and talk about it before, and I would like it, particularly if I had a farm going. But I find that my printing is so sporadic that I'll open a tab per printer if I have 3 or 4 printers going.
Yeah,
and just monitor them one at a time, or half the time I'm monitoring it via my cell phone.
Gotcha.
I've got the app on my phone that does the monitoring, and I can switch between printers on the app.
What do you use on that? Printroid, or what are you using on your phone?
Yeah, which one is it? It is. I still have it up here. You download something and then you never look at what it's called again. It's just what is this? I'm going to draw a blank because I've got it right here, and they didn't put anywhere in here what it's called. Yeah, Printoid.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was using.
Yeah, so I use Printoid. I paid for the Pro version a long time ago. That's
too.
what I've been using ever since, and it's been great. Like I said, it has some sync issues where I have to just shut it down sometimes and start it back up, and then it comes back in.
Yeah,
but I think we have a couple of questions. So let's
do that.
Let's see. First of all, like we said, Kris is in the chat, and we were talking about Kris's channel before we went live because I think that Kris, when I saw Kris's channel, it was probably about as big as my channel is now, maybe a little bit smaller. But Kris was doing the kind of content that I wanted to do. And so I would say that Kris's content was definitely one of the things that made me start my channel and get going as well. I'm like, he was covering all of the Big Tree Tech boards, and he was doing all the Octoprint and everything. And it was the kind of content that I really like, the really in-depth technical level stuff. So go ahead and you can make a comment too, because you were talking about him, his channel earlier.
No, Kris is awesome. He is definitely someone that on like personal level and professional level, like when it comes to his 3D printing, he is incredibly knowledgeable. He's been doing live streams like every week for sure, but maybe even multiple times a week. And he spends a lot of time helping and answering people's questions. And like you said, when it comes to like the more technical side of things, I had him on my live stream a couple of months ago and just like kind of drilled him with questions about things because I was like, you're here. I need to pick your brain on these things. So yeah, as far as, I mean, even talking about mod stuff, like he certainly knows his way around when it comes to firmware and hardware and stuff like that. So yeah, I think that he's an awesome individual and his channel is amazing. I absolutely love what he's doing over there.
Yeah. So thanks, Kris. If you're still watching and listening, we appreciate your channel. You've been doing good work for a while now.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we got a question here. Any of you guys ever done print bed lapping the base plate? Now, I assume by lapping that you mean actually remachining the print bed. Is that what you're talking about?
If that's what he's talking about, the answer for me would be no. All of the beds that I've used are just pretty much stock or replacement for stock. I mean, I've seen people like, God, I'm not even trying to remember the name, but I know someone that had a custom aluminum bed machined for him for one of his printers that he was building. But as far as like that, like that's what they'd be probably referencing, right? Is actually taking a CNC router and milling the bed flat.
Yeah, like lapping a CPU.
Gotcha.
And so I remember this from modding is where people would keep trimming off a little bit more of the top layer, that heat sink that they build into the CPU.
Gotcha.
And they do it to make it flatter. They do it to get rid of a little bit of that aluminum, to get a little bit closer to the core. And I think the answer for me, kind of like what you're saying with the replacement parts, number one, I don't have the hardware, just like you don't have the hardware sitting at home to mill, to mill your own heat beds. And it's just so cheap to buy a new one, particularly if it's a stock printer size, if it's a 220 bed, if it's, even the 300s, 350s, and if it's a flatness thing, glass. I mean, I just put down a piece of glass. I mean, even if you're going to put a magnetic sheet on top of it, I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, we can talk all about how adding those layers is going to cool it down and you're not going to be running quite at temp and that kind of thing. But I think that it doesn't seem worth it unless you have the hardware.
Yeah, if you've got the means. But I mean, I've got a small desktop CNC mill that actually can work with aluminum, but it's still like the bed would have to be like Monoprice Select Mini type size, you know, to be able to actually do something. But yeah, as far as they go, they're so affordable. And I mean, again, with a lot of Creality machines, one of the issues, especially with like the bigger bed ones, is the beds do tend to warp after enough heat and cool down cycles if they're not like that from the factory. So my go-to's always been just slap a pane of like borosilicate glass down or whatever kind of glass you've got that fits that, and you know, the problem's solved. And for me, or at least bandaged, you know, it works enough for it to work. And yeah, like you mentioned too, I've had people ask about, you know, heat transfer and things like that. But and I'm certain that if you were to get, you know, a thermistor and check the top versus the bottom, it's probably not exact, like for it to travel all the way through. But it's never been off enough that it's been an issue. Like the heat is there for one reason and one reason only. It's for helping with bed adhesion. So
Right,
if your bed adhesion is fine, then, you know, whether it's actually 100C for ABS or, you know, whatever it is, it's not really that big of a deal. So yeah, for me, it's just slap on the glass. And then again, like you said too, if you have to or you want to, you can slap a flex plate. But for glass, I really like the I preach like the ultra bases, man. Or like
that's what I started with on my ANET, was putting an ultra base on it. That was the first thing, you know, big upgrade compared to what it came with.
Obsessed with them. I mean, I use flex plates too. I've got like Wham Bam flex plates, and I've got like a Buildtech PEI. But
I've got down here I need to review.
Yeah, if you're just doing glass though, that stuff is absolutely amazing. And it's funny. I don't know if you saw the Creality announced all their new printers, but that seems to be the standard that they're going with their next gen of printers is ultra base style beds.
Well, and they were, I don't know if I haven't done any research on these new printers yet, so I have to plead ignorance a little bit. They were claiming this new type of glass that I really hadn't heard of before, and it could be a brand name, it could be marketing, I don't know, or it could actually be a type of glass that I just haven't heard of.
I looked at it, and I'm hesitant to say whether. I mean, we'll see when we get our hands on it, but I feel like it's just ultra base, man, that like is new to them, and they're describing it as something new. But again, I don't know. I haven't had hands on with it. I don't think anybody has, and I saw that they used a specific name that I had never heard of before.
Right.
For, you know, but looking at the renders and a couple of the shots that I was able to see they put out, I'm like, that's an ultra base. So I guess
which I'm great with. You know, like you said,
yeah,
absolutely. I think it's a great surface. The texture helps sticking.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm a person that thinks to Ivan Miranda. I print just on glass.
Yeah.
You know, he taught me through his videos how if you clean that glass just right, and everyone's, you know, different, and some people still can't pull this off. And I've gotten lucky to find a process that really works for me. But every one of my printers is straight glass. If for some reason the straight glass doesn't adhere, it's a glue stick on the glass, and it works great.
So most of your printing you're doing not ultra base, but just straight glass with no adhesives?
That's correct.
That's awesome. That's not me, but that is.
And again,
awesome.
he taught me in his videos. I don't know if you watch Ivan Miranda.
I'm subscribed to him, and I've watched some of his like crazy tank videos.
Yeah.
He's so pumped on those.
But he prints, I mean, forever. He eventually went to Flexplate recently.
Okay.
But before that, he was 100% glass, and he prints these giant prints. And I'm like, how are you printing these on glass? Like, how's it adhering? I can't get glass to stick. And he did this one video that I had to hunt down, and I've been kind of championing ever since, is this video that he did about how if you clean that glass, if you clean it with like dish detergent, hot water, and then he walks around the studio, never touch it with your hands.
Yeah.
And that it will stick. It absolutely has worked for me since then. Now, the squish is still really important.
Yeah.
You have to get just the right amount of squish that's not too much or too little, because both of them will screw it up. If you squish too much, it starts peeling up.
Yep.
And then if you squish too little, it just doesn't have enough surface area.
Yep.
But again, like I said, ever since then, it's been all glass. And I've got these flex plates down here that are going to have to win me over, because when glass cools, everything just magically pops off. I never have to peel anything off my print beds. It's just there when I'm done. You know, if you let it cool all the way down, it just pops off.
Even have you done even PTG on straight glass?
Yeah. And and I even had one of those ultra bases where I printed straight to the ultra base, and it took a chunk out.
Of the glass?
Yeah. Yeah,
wow.
where I pulled that thing off and it took a chunk of glass with it. Now they replaced it. Now those they were great customer service wise, and they sent me a new one.
That's awesome.
But since then I've learned if you put down glue stick between the layers,
it comes off easier, right?
It'll come off easier. But that was early on. That was years ago at this point.
That's crazy. I've had
but
that
now I do straight glass and it works terrific.
That's awesome. We'll see. Maybe I'll try it just for you, just to see, and I'll send you off a message saying
okay.
Or I'll send you a message of my part just sliding off, and I'm like, it's not sticking. Because I've definitely done that before. I think I've done it with PLA a few times, but I've got my system now of like what just works. And again, I've got a combination of like ultra bases, flex plates, mirror tiles, glass, and my go-to honestly is just I put a little bit of glue stick down almost every time. It just it works for me. And 3D printing though is one of those things where even talking about modding, like one thing that I really like about it is that there's not necessarily like one right answer for most things. You ask like, what's the best?
This is my previous,
just
glass from Lowe's is what I put in this video, right? That's what it is. It's a mirror, and mirrors are great because you can tell when they're flat.
Yep.
So,
I also
I interrupted.
I also like with mirrors, like being able to see the nozzle really easily to see if there's any like gunk that's starting to build up that I may be missing. So I like mirrors a lot. But it's for me just a little bit of glue stick, and it just seems to work for me. So like that's kind of. But what I was saying was when it comes to modding, like and with 3D printing is you ask like like a question like what's the best build surface for PLA? You'll get like 30 different answers, man.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I dig that about 3D printing because none of these people that are answering with their different answers are wrong. Like that's what works for them.
Keep trying it until you find something that works for your prints.
Yep. Exactly.
And again, I was using this glass on that just reached over there to my Ender 5 and grabbed that glass off of it. This is my new print surface on my Ender 5. This is from ByQ, who is also big tree tech as far as I can tell. And it is just painted steel, spring steel.
Interesting.
And it has, I mean, maybe it's a special kind of paint. I have no idea at this point. But it is textured, kind of like a Ultra Base is.
It's not PEI. It's not PEI though. It's just
it's just paint for all I can tell. I don't think it's PEI because it hasn't. It's scratched a little bit, but nothing else. And we had a quick question: who makes Ultra Base? Ultra Base, I think, makes Ultra Base. Isn't that correct? Isn't Ultra Base a brand?
I think it's Anycubic's product, to be perfectly honest with you.
Oh, you're right. You're right. But it is a name brand.
Yeah, they introduced
it. But it is Anycubic. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, their i3 Mega, I think, was the first to introduce it. And then I know like JG Aurora started using it, and Creality uses it. And recently on my CC Tree Delta printer, it comes stock with it. So I don't know whether they like contracted Ultra Base for their printer or if it was something they did in house, but the ones I've seen all seem the same. So I don't know if it's just one manufacturer that puts their branding on it, and Anycubic Ultra Base is just one variation of the many ones out there. But I think they were the first one that I saw that brought it to the big screen, if you will. Yeah,
and again, you could buy it on Amazon, so it was really easy to get your hands on, especially in the 220 size. And I think Thomas just said, is this powder coated like Prusa? And it may be. This may just be a powder coating.
Yeah, I would say it's a powder coating because if it was just painted, I think that it would come off way too easy. I think it's at least powder.
I've gotten one chip off of the corner here, but that was because of something I did. I dropped it. So it will chip if you drop it. So that
you're not using that on a Flexplate system? It's just you have it clipped on, or
no. This was what's terrific, and one of the things I've been telling people for their Creality machines.
Yeah,
this adheres to the magnet that's already on the printer.
Oh, I got you.
So there's no mod. You can pick this up. They're not selling it in the States yet. I had to order this, I think, off of AliExpress through their store. And so they're not selling it through their Amazon store yet. But I love this because it was inexpensive. It's double-sided. So once I finally scrape up this one enough, and I'm tired of the markings or whatever, that this side is still perfect. So I think it's going to have a really good life out of it. There's no stickers on it because, some people you'll see, like even on this one we were talking about, the
ECube Maker.
ECube Maker, right? How it's got that surface on it, and if you screw up the surface, you have to peel that off and put a new sticker. I hate that. I hate that so much.
It's tough to get the residue off usually, man. Yeah.
And half the people are not going to get the residue off. They're just going to pop that new sticker on
Yep.
top of it, and now your bed's not level.
Yep.
But anyway, so this is terrific because there's no sticker or anything to remove. It's just textured spring steel, and it's really nice.
Two questions about that. One, when you say it sticks to the magnets already, it's because the Creality machines that you have had already their little magnetic thing on it, right?
Exactly.
And then second question is, what did that retail at roughly?
I think that this one, and I actually included this in my live stream. I'm actually going to look it up. It was under $20.
Oh wow, that's really really good.
It's really cheap, and the worst thing about it was that I had to wait for it to get here from China.
Yeah. Yeah, the good old way. It's not on Amazon yet.
No, that's what I was saying. That since it's not available on their Amazon store yet, then you kind of have to wait for it to get here. But this is one of those things that if I ever took the time and put some of the products that I really loved into like my own Amazon store, I would import this.
That's awesome.
Just to sell to people so that they could get it faster.
Yeah, no, that's really cool that you just use the built-in magnets, because I have a lot of people that ask me about the Flexplate or the little flex mat that comes on the Creality machines, and I've told them that like I've used quite a few and I'm not super crazy about the top surface, because in my experience, like the ones I've used, like I've started to deteriorate or bubble or just screw up. So the fact that you can just keep the magnets at least and just throw down a $20 spring steel, that's a hell of an upgrade. And honestly, I love not, and again, you have the magic setup where you're able to have your parts without any adhesive just go stick and pop off. But for me, when I'm taking prints off, and again, usually not waiting till they're fully cold because I have no patience, I'm like, just go into town. So for me, the flex plates have been like a godsend, just being able to just go whoop and then blink, and then slap and then go. So yeah, I really like flex plate upgrades. And I think that for a lot of people getting into 3D printing, for sure, that like it's a lesser of a learning curve being able to just print a little bit closer to that thing and then pop the parts off after.
Absolutely. And like, when I put the glass on there, same thing about the residue. I didn't want to mess with it. So I left the magnet there. I didn't care. The magnet's not hurting the glass.
Yeah.
And so I left the magnet there. And then when I grabbed this one, it just popped. And it also doesn't have the problem, if you're familiar with a lot of these magnetic bed systems, where both the bed itself, since it's not metal, and the plate both have to have a magnet on it, and then they'll only sit in one place, and you have to find that right, or you'll get bubbles. And since you're just throwing metal on top of it,
perfect.
You don't.
Yeah. I've seen a couple manufacturers that have like glass plates that slot into place using magnets, and even those in themselves, like, one, you have to get them just right, and two, typically a lot of those ones, like the little magnets, they might actually fall off. Like I've had experiences before where when you move it while the bed's still at, whatever temperature it is, the adhesive holding those magnets to the glass or to whatever it is, they might not hold very well. So yeah, once certain companies started using spring steel as a base, like, it's, to me, like, it is amazing. I absolutely love it. So yeah, I definitely second that product is probably very rad.
So I'm going to go ahead. Jacob asked about spring steel for the Ender 5 Plus, and I have one here. This one is from TH3D, and I haven't installed it yet because I haven't gotten to it.
Freaking huge, man.
But there's so if you want one, I can do show notes after this and include this in the description afterwards. This is TH3D spring steel. They will sell you the steel, which comes with the PEI sheet. It has the magnet, and it's ready to go. That's a monster, man. What is the build volume? Is it 400 by 400? It looks bigger than 350 by 350 by 400. Okay. Yeah, that's a beast of a printer, man. So yeah, and I don't know if people follow all of my social media, but me and you were talking about this before. So if you're looking at what the Ender 5 Plus can print in one piece, this is a good example. It's insane. So this printed vertically in one piece, and I had it like within 2 or 3 millimeters of the top because I had to keep angling it down a little bit more and a little bit more. But yeah, it'll print things like this in one go, and this turned out gorgeous. And I've been talking about it on Instagram mainly. I've posted a couple of pictures here on my other ones, but I think Instagram's a great place for things like this. And you were asking, and what brought this up is people are asking about you were asking about the Exo slide because you saw my review, and like this was printed with the Exo slide, and it's great.
That's
one thing I was careful to tell people, before in that review was that the printer prints great anyway.
Yeah.
And it's really difficult, even doing a side-by-side comparison, to go, it really improved my prints because the printer is already a good printer. But I think as I upgrade some of the other components, as I do a 32-bit mainboard in it and get different steppers in it, that kind of thing, I think I'm going to see even more improvement out of it. But the only thing that I had at all problem with this print was the fact that I was printing too cold up until about this far.
Oh, interesting.
And I had some missed extrusions, and we're talking 5 degrees.
Yeah.
And so it kind of pissed me off, to be honest, that I had about 5 degrees off here, and there were some missed lines, and I'm still cleaning them up because I didn't go, no, let me start over. Let me get it right. Now I'm like, okay, I don't know where those lines are coming from, but about right here, it's perfect. It's perfect all the way up the nose until like the very tip where it probably printed a little too fast.
Did you change the temperature then once you saw that?
I did. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's what I'm saying. About right here, I go, I wonder if I'm printing a little cold.
Yeah.
And I changed it up 5 degrees, and it made all the difference, and then it printed clean.
Out of curiosity, what is your PLA print time? Because I've heard such a big range, and mine's changed pretty dramatically over the years, or drastically. What is it that your average PLA just go-to hot end temperatures?
Go-to is between 205 and 215.
Okay.
But it does vary greatly depending on who I'm printing the filament from.
Gotcha.
And because of that, I've actually spent more time recently in the past 6 months or so standardizing like which filaments do I print with. Oh, and it's because of that reason. It's because I'm tired of getting XYZ filament vendor because it was on sale, because they sent me some, because whatever the reason might be. And that gets really old. And like I said, these missed extrusions, and now I'm having to do post-processing more than I was going to have to do. And so the amount of time you'll spend because you saved $5 on a spool of filament.
Is it worth it in the end?
Yeah, and a couple hours work's worth way more than $5 to me in the end.
When you're there sanding away at it, you're like, son of a gun, I should have gone with the stuff I like, or the stuff I know works really well.
Yeah, this actually is my typical filament. I've been printing with FilamentOne for, I guess, almost a year now as my primary filament.
I've heard good stuff about them. Are they US based, or where are they out of?
Yeah, they're US based.
Okay.
And what got me started on them was the fact that they have a monthly subscription box that they send you two rolls a month of just random filament.
Oh, two kg rolls?
Yeah.
Oh, that's rad.
And it's like $40 a month, which is like $10 cheaper a roll than something like that. I may be off on the price, but it's like $40 a month, which is like $10 cheaper per roll than what you're normally getting their stuff for.
Yeah, no, that's awesome.
And they just, the quality of the filament's terrific. So I was, I think, showing you this one earlier, and this is what they call their Glint Midnight. Yeah. And it is speckled, and it is glossy, and it is absolutely terrific. This is no post-processing. This is just me peeling the supports off of it. And it's terrific. This is a 0.12 layer height. This took about 30 hours to print, I think.
Yeah, it's a gorgeous print.
But now I don't have to do anything.
Was that in their monthly thing?
Yeah. Yeah.
Damn, that's a nice filament, man.
And what's amazing, they do include their glints.
Yeah.
Which is their speckly, their glittery filament is included. And this one's been out of stock almost ever since they released it, because it's just a terrific color. Yeah, I was telling my wife I can like print everything out of this color.
You're like, this is the new standard.
That's the new standard for colors. Awesome. Let's hit the chat real quick. See if anyone else has any questions or any subjects they want us to talk about. And I know I'm skipping over some stuff here. This is funny. I saw someone recently talking about IPA and about IPA is the mainstay of cleaning your bed. It's the mainstay of cleaning the resin prints when they come off the bed. And
it's hurting me, man. It's hurting me.
And I'm sitting here on 64 ounces or more of IPA because I always bought extra.
It's awesome.
And it was funny because I was cleaning something with IPA. I think I cleaned the rails of that printer before I put on the new Exo Slide, and someone's like, "Man, that's gold you're putting on there to clean those rails."
It really is, man.
I'm like, I've got one under the counter here, and I have one over here. They're open. I can't do anything with them, but I keep one. I keep a bottle at every printer.
I was just talking about that because I've got recently I reviewed the ELLAGO, like their Saturn printer, which is like a pretty.
Yeah, I did see your review of that one.
So that's a decently sized printer, and all I had left of IPA was a tiny little bit on the tub. So I'm like dumping the part in there, just like try to shake it around, trying to get it to cover. But yeah, I ran into the store and like there's no IPA. So one thing I will say is that I've seen other people that use something called, is it like Go Green or solid?
That Mean Green or something that Jesse uses it.
Yeah, so I did some more digging around on that, and it seems like it doesn't work nearly as well as IPA, but it's definitely like an alternative, and it seems like it's much more readily available. So I haven't gone out and gotten it yet. I'm just kind of like, meh, for now, just wait and see. But yeah, there is alternatives. I don't know. I mean, again, for cleaning up the printers, I'm assuming if you just wanted to use some like warm water with some kind of a little bit of a, I don't know, detergent, or I would assume that would probably work, right?
I think you'd be okay, probably with some cheap vodka.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, but I mean, in these times, man, I don't know if
maybe some Everclear. Can you get some Everclear to clean the bed? I have heard of people using like other types of alcohol.
Yeah.
I mean, I think even if you've watched Joel has had a few jokes on his channel where they'll pull out rum and clean the bed with rum or something.
Captain Morgan guy. Yeah.
So let's see, Stewie just ordered a 5+ from Amazon. So congrats to Stewie for the new printer. I hope you enjoy it. TH3 have it in smooth and textured. So, I wonder.
Yours is smooth then.
I think mine is smooth.
Yeah, yours looks like it's the smooth one. I think the textured ones
Can you tell a difference by just looking at it?
Yeah, I think so. Because when you pulled it out, it looked smooth. While the other one, I believe, is powder coated, so it's similar grit to like the one you had from Big Tree Tech or BQ.
Yeah, so I've got plenty of. If I don't like the smooth though, I know how to rough it up. I've got plenty of.
Sounds like you've got a lot of flex plates going on, man. You said you have a wham bam.
No, I don't have a wham bam. Someone in the chat is saying wham bam. The only 2 flex plates I've got sitting here. I've got, of course, like I showed you, the ByQ.
Yeah.
I've got the TH3D, and I've got an Ultra Stick.
Oh, nice. I've seen those online.
Those
are
Ultra
PCI.
Yeah, that one's really nice. That one's going to go on the Ender 5 because I don't think that they have them
big enough
for that. So I have one for each.
Okay. Cool.
Awesome. So I do want to do the reviews of those. They were nice enough to send me those. And like you said, this one's huge, but I'll tell you, one thing I really like about TH3Ds is they're inexpensive compared to anybody else's. I don't know where they're getting them from or how they're getting them made, but they're way cheaper than anybody else.
I'll be curious to see what you think about it, and I'll also be curious to see if once you go to the Flexplate lifestyle, whether you end up going back to your pure glass lifestyle, man.
So I think what's really going to do it for me is, I actually once upon a time on that ANET tried. I don't think it was a Flexplate, but it was some sort of other softer material.
Okay.
And nothing pisses me off more than when you burn a hole in it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I can see that.
So that's what I don't have to worry. If I slam that nozzle into a piece of glass,
it's fine.
I'm fine.
Yeah.
But if you slam a nozzle into the center of that PEI sheet, I'm not looking forward to it.
Yeah, totally.
So that's what I worry about more than anything is stuff like that. Stuff that, accidents happen.
Yeah, no, it does happen, especially
and how many times do you preheat your bed with your nozzle like on it
all the time?
Yeah. Oh, I'm gonna knock that over if I don't move it.
There's been plenty of times where I've done silly stuff. Like if I could count up all the times I've done something just silly, either because I'm tired or I multitask a lot. But I wouldn't say that I multitask very well. I've often got multiple projects going on, but it's like, oh, that thing was heating up, or this is doing that. So yeah, things definitely happen. So and destroying build surfaces sucks, man. That's not fun.
No, and particularly, I mean, you spend your money on it. Some of these folks will warranty it depending on who you order it from, and some of them, if it's user error, if it's an accident, I don't necessarily think that it's their job to replace a piece of PEI because it's not manufactured incorrectly. It's not a manufacturer defect, which is what they're usually replacing.
it's typically considered a consumable. I know that a lot of companies will say that, hey, like, well, we will warranty improper craftsmanship or machining, but again, something like that, it's like, sorry, like it's like I don't know. I for the consumer, I can totally understand why you'd be like, but I just got this, and like why they'd be upset. But for the manufacturer, I get it too. It's like, hey, we've got this thing that we sold you, and like you didn't do something correctly, that's why something doesn't happen. It's because I mean, there is malfunction. Sure, a printer does something silly, but usually it's like you didn't level your bed for the added height, and then it crashed. That happens to people all the time, man. Where they add a flex plate and forget to re-level their bed to compensate for it. It's just like boom. So
yeah, and it happens by accident. And
yeah,
I mean, the only thing that I know that will absolutely, for the most part, as long as your firmware doesn't crap out on you. I mean, if you've got an auto bed leveler, that should stop you from slamming into it.
Yeah, totally.
But as Ender 5 Plus users know, with that default firmware it comes with, it can sometimes crap out on you and just slam it straight into the bed because it loses its Z offset or something.
God,
there's nothing you can do.
Is it a BL or is it a inductive, or what is it that comes on that?
It's a BL Touch.
Okay, cool.
But again, it's just if your Z offset's off,
yeah,
then
absolutely.
The default, they should have included a default Z offset that didn't slam it in, that kept it like 3 inches off of the bed or something. Yeah. Something crazy.
Protect myself offset. Yeah.
Yeah. Tripods Garage asked if I've gotten any more filament from Kodak, and in fact I have. Kodak, I'll show you because you probably haven't seen the video, but this is a droid that I have started using Kodak filament. So they sent me the video I showed. They sent me a whole bunch of filament. They were like, hey, are you interested in trying out our filament? I said, sure. And I get these boxes from Amazon, like they're a whole line of filament. Here's some nylon, and here's some PLA, and here's some ABS. And I'm like, all right, guys.
That's awesome.
And I've like, I don't like to waste filament on test prints after test prints. I don't need I don't need any more benchies. None of us need any more benchies.
Never have too many.
And so I'm like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to come up with a project that I'm going to use all this filament you sent me. And so I'm going to build a pit droid from Star Wars.
Sick.
This is the only piece I've printed because I promised other things first.
Yeah.
But I did a video on printing the head. This was on the Ender 5 Plus also.
I mean, it's a little bit far out, but like it looks really smooth.
There we go.
What is it, like a silky gray or?
No, it's just gray. It's just
okay.
It's got a sheen to it.
Okay, yeah, it's nice looking. It's like it's kind
So
of.
I printed it upside down.
Mm-hmm.
And as you can see, and their filament printed great, and this is stuff you can get on Amazon. And the only complaint I had was that their filament had some winding issues when I got it. It was really now I printed the entire spool to print this, or this and a couple of odds and ends, but there was no tangles in it. I had no problems in the whole spool. So while it was ugly, it wasn't a malfunction.
Gotcha.
And so what they've done is they've sent me I've got like 5 more rolls here of PLA Plus that they sent me because they wanted to show me that their winding was fixed. And I don't know if it is yet.
Oh, you haven't checked?
Let's check. Let's do something right here live on this stream. I've got this roll here. This is their PLA Plus Silver. And it comes in these really, they do the nice sealed aluminum bags here. And this one is still vacuum sealed, which is one of the reasons I like these. And then they actually heat seal their bags.
That's awesome.
So this will actually get me a good rush of air. I can probably get it once it doesn't do it before I get the top off. Let's see if it is wound correctly. We can find out right now.
I love poking a hole in a fresh spool and just hearing it seep out.
There we go. Let's see if I can get it on the mic.
Oh yeah.
No sound, but you saw it.
No, I heard it a little bit.
Okay. So is it better?
It looks good from here.
It is better.
Yeah.
This isn't Prusa quality.
Yeah, that's fair.
But it's relatively, it's weird. Their filament just kind of has a wave to it.
Yeah.
And so I don't know why. It's clean enough. This one's cleaner than their last one for sure. But as long as it doesn't tangle, I don't know how much I care. I think people really like to see that really clean roll, but this is if I get a tangle, you'll hear it from me in one of my videos.
Yeah, I'd be upset if from the factory somehow it was tangled. But yeah, as far as I mean, I think it comes down to like it just looks like when you see it perfectly wound, like a little bit extra care and love was put into it. That's all it is, man. You know?
You're just going, oh, that's high quality stuff.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Whether
it's
it makes a difference, like functionally, I don't know. But
the car's not faster, but the paint job looks really good.
I think that's exactly what it is. But I will say, like, I've seen people post like how they post, like first layer porn shots, like shots of spool on the pre-cement spools, and like I look at it, I'm like, okay, damn, like that looks good. Like those lines are parallel.
So what else we got here? Again, so I printed that. It was really the head there turned out great. I hope I have enough filament now to finish it because I've got nylon, and it's going to be a droid printed out of like 15 different types of filament.
That's awesome. That'll be a super cool project.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to just finishing that up in one fell swoop. That's why I ended up having to go ahead and do this as a side project because it doesn't require me to film it. It's just I have extra time that, sometimes I'm printing test prints or whatever, and I still like to sit down and work on something.
What's your go-to, random question, do you have one go-to test print that you just learned to love, or no, you try to just like implement a test print into something cool that you're planning on holding on to?
So I have a few go-tos for functional prints.
Okay.
But when it comes to like the pretty print of the day, I do like to change it out from video to video. I mean, so, sometimes it's just a benchy because I want to see, I know what a benchy looks like.
Yeah.
And so because of that, I think a benchy is still a good test because you know what the overhangs can look like. You know what the hull of the ship can look like if it's printed really well. So I generally print one of those, and it doesn't take long.
Yeah.
I've got another video coming up where I printed some omnoms, which I don't know if it's from Cut the Rope.
Yeah, the little green guy.
Yeah. So I've got him and a new one. I did this benchy that's as a half shark and half benchy.
That's awesome.
And they're merged together. Someone like kit bashed them.
Yeah.
That's a great print. But as far as functional prints go, I always do an XYZ cube because I want to know how accurate is the printer.
Yep.
I want to see how close are we getting to that 20 millimeter cubed or whatever. Mm-hmm. Because, a lot of people do buy these because they need a part and they need it to fit a hole.
Yep.
And if it doesn't fit, then the printer's already off the table.
Yep.
And then I will do Angus's tolerance test.
Oh, okay. The one with the little like pegs, right?
Right.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Well, not the pegs. This is one of his newer ones where you actually flip the pieces. I've got one right here. But the whole point of this one is just to find out what the tolerance of the printer is. So I don't have my close-up cam turned on today, so that's why I'm having to hold it up here.
Oh, yeah. No, I've totally seen this. Yep.
Okay, so this is black. There, you might be able to see. So each of these little ones has a measurement on it, and they go from 0.5, which is, of course, ridiculously loose.
Yeah.
And then they go down 0.4, 0.3, 0.2. And if you get 0.2, the general consensus is this is normal. This is really where you want your printer to be, is a 0.2 tolerance.
Yeah. Because
what that means is you've got 0.1 millimeter on either side.
Yeah.
So that's about as good as you're getting. And then on here, you'll see that there's a 0.15 as well. This one's stuck on this printer that printed this one off.
Yeah.
But I have had a printer that can do it.
Gotcha. That's great.
But there's a lot of tweaking. You got to get the flow rate just right in order to get that kind of tolerance, because now you're talking about less than 0.1 millimeters on either side of these little wheels.
Insane. That's really, that's almost like getting into where usually when people go much finer than that, like that or finer, I'm like, yeah, maybe resin printing will be easier for this. That's impressive. Like that's really, really good. And like I get a lot of people that ask me too about like resolution of prints and stuff like that. And I tell most people that, like, sure, maybe this printer claims that it can print, like 50 or 75 microns or whatever. But I'm like, in all reality, like, I don't usually print under like 200 microns. Like, I know you did yours at 150, right? You said that blew the
this 0.12.
Oh, 0.12. Yeah. Like you're a patient man. You said you waited 30 hours. Like for me, it'd be like 0.2, crank it out like my standard used to be 0.3, and I was like,
So-
okay, I think we need to like tone it down a bit. So like 0.2 or 200 microns has been my go-to for at least the last year. But yeah, that's
So this one is where I went overboard. This one's printed at 0.08
it's disgusting. I mean, it's amazing, but it's
because of the detail.
yeah,
This is not something I'm cleaning up with sanding.
no,
It's too detailed. It looks like wood. It has wood grain built into the
looks
print.
great. Yeah, no, it's
And
awesome.
you know, this is the mask from Jim Carrey's mask. And this was something I just wanted to try. Like, can my Ender 5, my original Ender 5, which I did do a linear rail mod on it, can it do this? And it did. You know, like this is like 3 days.
Yeah, I would again no 3D printing, man. Everyone has their own style, you know. Everyone.
But this was purely like, can I do it? And I really didn't know if the printer could print that small of layers for that long and be consistent.
You said
and there's no I think about 3 days.
It's crazy.
Which for a print this size, you're like 3 days. But yeah, I love this print now. I mean, this is like it needs painting, but the only post processing I need to do on it is just cleaning up supports. Still, there's still some supports where it was on the bed.
Yeah, that looks.
But that one, that print is so good. I can't put it up here on the shelf because my camera thinks it's a face.
Oh, it starts to autofocus on it.
Yeah,
that's hilarious.
I was going to put it behind me on the shelf, and all of a sudden it's going, no, that's not me. It doesn't work.
Here. That's funny. Yeah, that's insane.
So let's go back to mods a little bit. Like I said, I did. I designed my own linear rail mod for the Ender 5. About the same time I did, there were a couple other people that did kind of different design goals, like we were talking about, your own flavor of mods and what are your philosophies. So my philosophy, for example, on my linear rail mod was I don't want any more plastic in it than I have to put.
Gotcha.
So I wanted it really, really rigid. And so all I did was basically adapters.
Okay.
You know, I didn't want any more to add any more layers to it. So I added some adapters just to adapt it to the rails, and I ended up having to put some idlers, which I made little mounts for.
Nice. Okay.
You know, but there's this other guy who designed a linear rail mod for it where big plastic pieces, you know, he 90-degree angles, and he was adding all this stuff. He took off all the original mounting, and so again, that own sense of not only aesthetics, but functional aesthetics, or functional, like, what are your design goals? What are you trying to get it to do?
Yeah. And it's different for everyone. And I think, again, like, that's one thing with 3D printing that I love so much, is that it's so different for everyone, you know, like, it's so different. Like, there's so many different things you can do with it. There's so many different directions you can go with it. Like, you know, somebody that says like, hey, I'm going to be printing a lot of flexibles, like, I'd probably recommend a completely different setup than somebody else that's like, yeah, you know, I need to just print with carbon fiber nylon, like, or whatever it is. Like, it's so cool seeing all of these different things. And yeah, it's incredible, because I bet you, again, it's one of those things where if you had a group of people too that were like, let's make a linear rail mod for the Ender 5, and you guys didn't peek into each other's, you know, projects, and then in the end you're like, why did you do that? And you're like, well, because it does this, this, and this. And then and that's also stemming back to why 3D printing and Marlin and RepRap and stuff is so cool, because everyone does have their own things. And maybe, like, you know, subject A has this thing that's really cool, but subject C has this thing that's really cool. But because of everyone sharing, like, we can now combine it and make like the ultimate thing. So that's really cool too. I love seeing people that make stuff and then it gets adapted into something that's even like crazy cool, that like wow, I just thought this was a little thing and now it's this massive thing that people are like in love with. Like, it's so cool seeing stuff like that, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, I think that sometimes, just as a designer, as a person that wants to do a mod and wants to do it from scratch, I'm always torn between looking at what others have done, and then not going in fresh and figuring out what I come up with on my own. And I think that there's potentially gains from both, because without seeing what anyone else has done, you might come up with something that's completely different. Like, no one's thought of that. Whereas if you let other people's projects kind of spoil you, you get this idea that that's how it has to be done.
Yeah.
Like, it's been done that way. Everyone's done it that way. So maybe I have to do it that way. And
Yeah.
so you don't think outside of the box because you looked in the box.
No, that's a fact. And but I will say too that potentially you are able to take some of the things that they did, and it either makes your version of it easier because you're like, that is exactly what this thing is. That's the only piece that's missing is that one little thing. So it's like you said, there's kind of good and bad, because certainly like fresh eyes, if you've never seen it done before, you're going to have your own reasoning. Like, okay, like this is like, what's the goal of this? Cool. Linear rail adapter for this. And how am I going to mount it? Like, but if you see someone else, you'll probably implement. But I also don't think there's anything bad with, like, I've sometimes seen like multiple creators do something, and like I'm like, I like these things, and I'm gonna take like a hybrid of these things and make my own thing and add my own little spin to it. So there's not a right.
A lot of that's inspiration, though, don't you think?
Yes, fact. I mean, most everything is not truly an original idea. We're all inspired from something, whether it's something that we see right away or something we've seen a long time ago. We don't even realize it. But yeah, I think that that's true. But yeah, I do agree that there's certainly pros and cons if you're going to start a project and you're going to do a mod, whether your angle is to do as much research on what people are currently doing, because like you said, then your brain might grab onto, this is what I'm seeing, and then like all of a sudden that's your default, is to go doing it that way versus kind of creating your own method of doing it, which might be far superior, and you just don't know it because you haven't tried it yet.
So I'm going to go ahead and, while we're talking about creating mods from scratch, I'm going to go ahead and throw up one of my projects, and a lot of people on this chat may be new to my channel, or even yourself haven't gone back through the catalog of something that I did really early on the channel. Mm-hmm. The video quality is not, like you said, it's one of those you go back and watch, and you're like,
ooh, yeah,
I could completely do that differently now. So this is, I'm going to go actual full screen. So right here, and how big can I get? Is it going to let me? There we go. So this was a printer that I designed from scratch back in the day, before I'd ever touched a fixed bed printer like the Ender 5 or the Ender 5 Plus. I'm hearing an echo. Is that just me, or do you hear that too?
I don't hear an echo.
Okay, we'll assume it's just me then. So yeah, this is a giant printer. I wanted a big, I call this the Cosplay 600. It is a 600 by 400 print bed. And I was really going for something because I wanted to print huge objects. I wanted to be able to print like a chest plate for cosplay in one go.
That's an insane build volume, man, and especially for one of your early on ventures, man. That's crazy looking.
Yeah, and this was one of those ventures where people really got onto me because why are you making a moving bed for something this big? But it was all I knew at the time. I didn't have a Core XY printer. I didn't have an Ender 5 or an Ender 5 Plus. And so this was really going on what I knew at the time. And I even came up with something people this is still one of the top viewed videos on my channel. And I don't think many people may know that because they don't go there and sort by popularity or anything. But it uses a ball screw for moving the bed.
Oh, wow.
Because, and you can see it right back here.
Is it because of the weight or the mass? Like you thought that?
Right, exactly.
Yep.
I had to get rid of the play of those belts. If you'll notice back here in the back, I had two. It was designed for either or.
Okay.
So, some of the parts had to be custom machined, and when I had them machined, I had them machined for either or.
Got you. Okay.
Out of the gate, because I wanted to know. And so these were standard just NEMA 17s driving these. And there's still a standard NEMA 17 driving this. But it's a ball screw. It's a 1610 ball screw.
Jeez.
And it was a lot of fun to design. We're really talking about, there's my daughter. We were looking at some of these, and it printed this big garbage can, which I actually still have sitting next to me.
That's awesome. Do you still have this, or no? Is this in the past?
No, that's what I'm saying. So this is, again, one of those things where I had this set out for the channel. This is something I wanted to keep pursuing, but I got so caught up in the other sort of stuff that I was doing that it got, sideburnered. But yes, it's still sitting in my dining room, and I need to finish it. Awesome. It is an unfinished product, but like this is what it can produce. This is the trash can that came off of it.
I'll take 2, please.
Right?
They're awesome, man.
And the goal also was that it was inexpensive. I was trying to do a lot with that. And the only thing that I had to custom machine that was kind of more expensive was the actual plate. So there's one piece of aluminum covering that whole plate.
Yeah.
And because you have to mount it to something and you have to, make it one big piece. And so, as we see here, this is one big piece. And it's got 2 rails, and it's got a ball screw. But that was the only thing that was really expensive, and everything else was off-the-shelf components. It was just the point. Not only that, but the other sort of innovative thing here that I still haven't seen any printer do. There may be some that do it, but given that there's no firmware that really supports it yet, this is 4 heat beds. So you can zone your printing.
Wait. So like if you took the bed and divided it in 4, basically each one makes up a quarter of it, like the different corners?
Exactly. So again, off the shelf components, you can see it here.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Each print bed is an off the shelf print bed.
Jeez.
That is 200 by 300, which meant that I could use this to print smaller objects and only heat up a quarter of the bed.
That's awesome. That's actually really cool because 1, power usage, and 2, like I would imagine that using that whole bed heated generates way more heat than you would need for the times you're just looking to print a standard part, So
it's dual power supplies.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So I've got 1 power supply here and 1 power supply here, and each one is like 400 watts.
Jesus. That's insane, man. Do you have a name for it?
Yeah, like I said, I called it the Cosplay 600.
Oh, okay. That's the official name.
That's the official name.
The title, yeah.
Again, purely because that's what I designed it for. I designed it for the printing of large cosplay objects, and to make it relatively inexpensive to print with. So
that's insane. That's such a big project, man.
But for the size, it was a lot of fun. And I still have to, there's some mods that I have sitting in there on top of it that are like ready to go. Again, with the whole plan, I'm going to catch up. I'm not taking any more review printers right now, which is true. Yeah. I've been approached and I'm like, no, I'm good right now. Because I have projects I want to do. I have cosplay I want to do, that kind of stuff. But I brought that one up, not just to delve into the past here, but sort of to go to that extreme level of modding where you actually build something from scratch.
Yeah.
Where not only are you modding something that you bought, and we know people, I can tell you, particularly in the Ender 5 community, the Ender 5 Plus community, people are completely pulling apart that printer. The only thing that's left when they're done with it are like the motors and the frame. And it's kind of funny to me sometimes. And I actually get the comments in my videos that are like, what's left? Why did you spend the time?
Yeah. At what point is it even, like remotely what the original machine was? I've gotten that too.
And I really do. I think though that a lot of it is learning. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of it is building up that knowledge base. This may be your first printer. It may be your second printer. And you want to learn how to do it one step at a time. And as you know, some of it's cost. Yeah. Because if you sourced a whole printer, it's going to be more expensive than if you bought it pre-assembled.
Strip it down to its core.
Right.
Yeah.
And plus, as you know, I mean, these hobby printers, it's something you do over time. You do it for fun. Yeah. And you spend money a little here and a little there, and it doesn't hurt so much.
Yep.
Right.
No, yeah, I agree. Yeah, you're like, don't look at the total tab. Just like, it's $20. It's 20. Yeah, I added up my Amazon expenses for 3D printed stuff one year, and wish I hadn't when I saw how much I'd spent on just little components. Man, it gets pretty steep pretty quick, man.
So Brian Vines just joined us. He's been on here hosting with me a couple of times now. So I wanted to say hi to Brian.
Cool. What's up, Brian?
And
yeah, looks like my buddy over at MKME Lab stopped by. He does a lot of really cool electronic projects as well in 3D.
I don't think I know MKME Lab, so welcome. I hope you Hope you're enjoying it. Let's see. We've got some other comments. If I missed your question, at this point, I can't go back in time. I've missed too much. And we are almost out of time. So if you have any questions for us before we sign off here, I told my wife an hour to an hour and a half. And so we're at that hour and a half.
Yep. I told my fiance too we'd watch a movie when it was done. So I hear you.
So let's go ahead. If you have any questions for us, we will top those off. And I am going to see if do you have any more topics? Anything that you wanted to bring to the table while we were sitting here? Or have we covered it?
Well, one thing I was just wanting to say too, like when it comes to modding, which is funny, and I go through phases where like, kit style printers and modding things sounds really awesome and fun, and other times where I'm like, oh, that sounds exhausting to me. But for me, in all honesty, with 3D printing, as much as I love 3D printing, half the fun for sure has been screwing around with the machines.
Oh yeah.
Upgrading them. I love it. I get such enjoyment out of just thinking and like tinkering and like, no, that didn't work. And then afterwards I'm like, oh, it's kind of better. Or for me, like that is as much. And even stemming back to when I was doing the video game modding stuff, it was more just for the thrill of doing it. When it was done, I didn't really, the exploits and, running custom stuff, like, it's cool, but it's more just like, it's the thrill of the hunt, if you will.
Absolutely.
I really enjoy it. So, and I think a lot of people also get that kind of satisfaction out of, just it's like Legos, but way more complex, like adding your own little pieces here and there, taking some away. Like, I don't know. It's just, it's a lot of things combined, but certainly I very much so get joy out of upgrading and modifying printers. I think it's so fun,
So that's actually not the one I meant to. So tripod, he mentioned that, this is John here. He mentioned that the only things left are the wires. Only power wires left in the original E5 Plus. We've got, I saw another one here, David, who thinks he's between 1,500 and 2,000 on his Ender 5 Plus at this point. But it's easy, right? Because if you there are some high dollar items. You can go with the Chinese knockoff of something, or you can go with the Mosquito.
Yep.
Right? There's a huge cost difference there. Or you can go with the Big Tree Tech, or you can
Duet Wi-Fi or something like that.
Go Duet, and those are big cost differences.
It's crazy. But again, if it's like your hobby and it's something that you love, I mean, I don't know, people spend a lot of money on their hobbies, and if it brings you joy, then like to me it's
what's the money for, right?
Yeah, exactly. At the end of it all, So no, that's
we've got here. What's your go-to slicer? We're going to be quick on this one. This one's pretty straightforward.
Cura's mine.
Cura's mine as well. I have tried other ones for brief periods of time, but to be honest, it was a while back. I haven't tried Prusa Slicer, and why not? Because if I try a new slicer, I have to start learning all over again.
Yeah, man.
I mean, I've heard great things about Prusa Slicer.
Me too.
So that's terrific. I'm going to be using was it Chitu Box when I get my Reality? For resin, I'll be pulling because it comes with Chitu Box, and I know how you and Jesse and everybody else raves with that one.
Awesome,
it's terrific.
Yep.
Let's see what else we got here. Any plans to add a direct drive setup to your new rail system? If I do, it's going to be the Humera because I already have one.
I'm jealous.
Not only that, but ExoSlide has already designed the mounting system and the cooling system for it. So you can print them out and you can just go Humera. The only thing I'll have to do is wiring. So if I go direct drive, it's Humera. And if I don't like it, I probably won't stay direct drive. I don't need to add weight to that linear motion system.
Yeah.
People already complain that you're already dragging around a motor with you. I don't plan on dragging around a second motor with me unless it's compact, unless I'm really not going to be adding a whole lot of extra weight to it.
Yeah. Do you have to use with the Humera full-size NEMA 17 or no? Is it like a pancake or something like that?
It comes with its own. It's
right.
part of it.
Right. Yep. I forgot.
It is a pancake, but my understanding is it's super overpowered and it has is it a 9-degree one instead of a 0.9 degree one instead of a 1.8?
Okay.
I think also.
They're custom.
And it's geared.
Yeah. They're made. Aren't they made by the shirt that you're wearing?
Yeah, LDO
I was
motors.
gonna say, yeah.
I picked this shirt up at Earth last year, and this is my
awesome.
first time wearing it.
That's rad.
It's a great shirt. It's a great shirt.
Super cool.
I made a trip over to their booth just to pick up the shirt. But they do. I bought other motors from them. I've got a that 0.9 degree stepper that I use on the Cosplay 600. I have one on. That's a direct drive.
Awesome.
After all, it's so huge and big and heavy anyway. It doesn't matter. What else? Slicer, Prusa slicer. People are saying Prusa slicer. Opinion on the Exo slide. I covered that earlier. I like it. So far, I think the short of it is it hasn't been a game changer, but it's so quiet. It is so smooth. I don't have to clean the damn wheels anymore or adjust the damn wheels anymore.
Yep.
So it wasn't a quality thing for me. It's just a quality of printing.
No more eccentric nuts, right? Anymore. Has it gone?
Exactly. And the dust or plastic or whatever you think it is coming off those wheels. I don't need that anymore.
Yep.
No more compressed air as part of cleaning the printer. What else we got here? We're almost done. We're going to go with this last one here. Does the fun hobby modding emphasis make recommending a Just Works tool to someone alien or difficult, like mod at E3 to death versus pre-built Prusa or something? I'll let you take that one first, and I'll follow up.
Wait, does the fun modding emphasis make recommending a Just Works tool to something?
I think they're asking, like if they're asking you for something that just works. Versus asking you like for the printer that needs a lot of mods. Like, do you have a tough time recommending a printer that just works versus one that is a hobby printer?
No, not really. I mean, honestly, a lot of it stems down to, are you willing to tinker and what's your budget? Those are like the two questions.
Yeah,
man.
absolutely.
Are you willing to tinker? No. Okay, cool. Like, go with a Prusa. Go with something that's more, like not a $200 Ender 3. If you don't have the budget or you don't know how much you're going to use it, Ender 3. Like, and my thing is too is, again, you mentioned the ANET, and I also own the ANET, and I own machines around that time frame. And compared to what a $200 printer, $160 printer used to be versus what it is now, they're damn good printers now, man. Yeah. Compared to what they were. So, and
I was going to bring that up. Some people take my upgrade videos that I do, like on the Ender 5 Plus, as these are needed mods. Like, you have to do these to this printer. If I get a plus, I'm going to have to count on having to do this. And I it's funny where you'll say something in a video very intentionally, and you'll say it at the beginning of a video. And I don't know if they skip it to get to the mods or if they just, it doesn't process.
Yep.
Because in videos like that, I do my best, or at least I try. I hope I don't cut it out. But to try to make the point that these aren't necessary.
Yeah.
Like, unless I come at the video and tell you this is not working, you have to do this.
Yeah.
Like, these mods are for fun. They improve this thing that I didn't like. They improve that thing I didn't like. Oh, this thing was a little loose, so I put a new nut on here. That kind of thing. But like on the Ender 5 Plus, it has some quirks out of the box. It has some things that some people get really pissed off about. But for me, I did an unboxing and a preview video.
Yeah.
And I printed this helmet right here, this out of the box with it.
Insane.
And then for someone to ask, do I have to do all of these mods? Well,
no.
Look, this was the first print off the machine that was bigger than a XYZ cube.
Yeah, that's insane.
And so, and I even made the point in the video how smooth this was and how high quality this was. And so to the point, like, no, like, you can recommend an Ender 3 or an Ender 5 or an Ender 5 Plus. You can recommend a lot of these printers.
Yeah.
And they don't need modding.
Yeah.
But you can.
Yeah. No, I tell people all the time that if you get a machine like an Ender 3, there's a chance that it'll do what you want to do and you'll never have to touch it. But if you do decide you want to, what's amazing is that there's a community out there of people, and you can easily slap an all metal on it. You can easily slap auto leveling if that's what you desire. Like, there's all these things that you can do. But again, like, it functions damn well for what it's supposed to do out of the box for the most part. So yeah, it's like that. Even like looking behind me, this K40 laser, like it's so heavily modified. One of my coworkers was like, man, like why did you get that thing? You should have just bought like a really nice like laser. And I'm like, a lot of the stuff that I'm telling you that I've done to it, I didn't necessarily have to. Yes, it does make things a bit better, but like it did basic stuff at the time. Granted, this is a bit more extreme than like an Acrality machine, like no doubt. But you know, when you tell people things that definitely, that's the thing I never thought of, but a lot of it does get lost in translation. There's a difference between this is a requirement and this is, if you're an enthusiast and you got time on your hand, or this is really that big of a deal to you, you can do this thing. Like we do it because we get, again, stemming back to some enjoyment and some fun out of doing it as well. That's why we invest so much time, energy, and effort into it.
Isn't it just though like an audio or a video file who wants the new speaker, who wants the higher quality television, whose spouse, because I don't want to be gender specific here, whose spouse tells them, why did you want those new speakers? I can't tell a difference. Or, you know, or the people in the beginning where you'd buy a Blu-ray player and they'd go, I don't see any difference than DVD. You know, and it really is the hobbyist. It really is that idea that if you care, if it's what you're into, then you notice everything. Like the reason I put a new aftermarket printed cooler on there was purely because, oh man, I noticed the left side of my prints don't look quite as good as the right side of my prints. Right. So I want to make sure I'm cooling from both sides. That kind of, is there anything wrong with stock cooling? No, but it could be better.
It's one of those things too, if you told somebody like, you know, that's not into it, they just kind of roll their eyes at you, you know, like, all right, it's no difference. But again, it's something that if you love it and you're passionate about it, or if it's just something that you enjoy, then even me too. I'm sitting there with my printing position is with my arms behind my back, hunched over, looking at the printer, like in inspection mode. And yeah, you notice every little thing, but to someone that's not so involved with it, they would totally be like, you're crazy. It's fine as is, you know, but it's us, like we're the enthusiasts.
You know, I'm going to bring this back out and do a little spoiler because this is one of those printers. To me, this has virtually no mod value, right? It's got linear rails. It's only a 180 by 180 print, 180 by 180 by 180 print volume. It comes with the print heads that are designed to go with this printer. Now, I'm sure someone who had just that printer and enough time on their hands could find a way to upgrade it, could find a way to mod it, to put their own firmware on it or something. But to give a little bit away on that printer, if you use their software and you just slice and print and maybe a little bit of tweaking to their profiles, it just works. It just prints. At least it did for me. I've got a box of stuff over here. I went in, I tweaked a little bit on the slicer, and I went slice, put it in the printer, and said go.
That's awesome.
You know, and it printed for me. And so would I recommend that to someone? Yes. But it's the person that just wants a printer that doesn't need a big build volume and just wants something to do a job. It's the tool, right? You know, it's the one that they could sell at Hobby Lobby or Michael's or whatever, and you could take it home and you could learn how the tool works.
Relatively, well, I would say easily, but relatively easily.
You know what I mean? I mean, it's, as far as 3D printers go that use Cura as a slicer.
You don't have to get under the hood.
Right.
You can drive the automobile without knowing how to repair it type thing, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And so, I think there's totally a market for stuff like that. I have no problem recommending it. Like I said, any more than I have recommending an Ender 5 out of the box and going, no, it just works. Don't touch it. Just print with it. Learn how it works. You don't have to make it your hobby. You can just enjoy 3D printing. We're going to do some quick answers here. Will the short supply of IPA undermine resin printing?
I told you, or we talked briefly about that a little bit ago. I don't know if you heard that, but it's like the Go Green, I think is what it's. No, that's not right. Is it Go Green?
I don't know.
It's something green.
green monster. I don't know.
If you search up like
mean green or something,
mean green or something like that, it comes in a tub, and I think you can get it from like most general stores.
Go to Uncle Jesse's channel. He talks about it.
He talks about it quite a bit. But it doesn't quite work as well. It's not as potent as IPA, but it's certainly a usable replacement for the time being. So I will very soon be running out and grabbing some and putting it through its paces because I need some, and IPA is Kris is hoarding it all. So
that's me. I like I said, I prepped for this printer over here before I've even touched it. So I've got bottles sitting on the floor.
Perfect,
when you could go to Sam's and buy all you wanted.
Yep, those were the times.
Which is actually where mine came from. So why do people play golf? Answer that question.
Hitting balls. It's fun. I don't know. Why do people go to the batting cages?
It's better than doing work in an office.
Yeah.
You can talk on the links. I don't play golf either. I played when I was a kid. I think I went to a par 3 golf course a handful of times.
Most of the people I know that play golf also drink beer while they play golf, and then I understand why they play golf.
There you go.
Yeah.
But Mr. Clean has a green colored cleaner that works well also.
Gotcha. I even heard from somebody that they were potentially using acetone that was working as well. If you have that, and that's supposedly easier to find. I mean, I think acetone's probably even nastier to work with than IPA, but again, like if it comes down to it,
probably more flammable too.
Yeah, be safe. Always practice safety, kids.
Well, and you don't want acetone on your hands.
No, yeah, definitely. I always.
But then again, you're wearing gloves anyway, so I guess it doesn't matter. So I think that's it. I think we've covered all of the questions, and we sure have covered the topic.
Awesome.
So I am going to give you last say for pitching what's going on in your world, what you have coming up,
cool,
and let people know where to find you on social media.
Sounds great. Well, thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you, Kris, again for having me. This was a blast. It's always fun to talk to another enthusiast about 3D printing and get some different perspective and see what kind of projects you're working on. You definitely have a lot more knowledge with the Ender 5 machines. I'm much more in the Prusa Ender 3 realm of their machines. But yeah, my name's Daniel. I've got a YouTube channel, ModBot, where I make a video every Saturday. It's a lot of 3D printing reviews, so tutorials, tips, tricks, mods, random projects, really whatever's currently going on, all things making, essentially. So that's my primary platform. And yeah, if you want to see more stuff, feel free to check me out there. And again, thank you. This was a blast. Thanks for having me.
I appreciate you coming on. I was telling my wife before this, I always think it's more fun to talk to someone else rather than to talk to myself for an hour to an hour and a half. Yeah. Luckily these guys in the chat show up and they give me plenty to talk about. But if you're not here to just to hear my mouth run, I like having someone to bounce things off of. And so I appreciate you coming on. Absolutely. This was honestly, for anyone watching, this was our first time ever meeting. I hit him up after watching his awesome interviews that he was doing on his channel. And I really wanted to have him on my channel so that we could talk about what he was working on instead of what others were working on. So that's where this came from.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you coming on. Again, if you are, I'm going to put this at the bottom. So if you're looking for me anywhere, you can find me. I answer almost every YouTube comment that I get. I answer private messages on pretty much every platform, and I really appreciate all the feedback that I get. I am doing this because, as I was telling ModBot here ahead of time, that it was a great way for me to share what I was working on with you guys. That was my first motivation, was just to be able to interact with the community more, to give back a little bit of what I was working on, because I was working on so many of these big tree tech boards, and just, you know, it was fun to do it for my own use, but it's more fun when I can share my projects with you guys and for you to see what I'm working on. So again, so let's see what's coming up immediately. I've got this that I'm finishing, which was printed.
It's awesome. On
my Ender 5 Plus. This is from a terrific designer named Hex 3D. You can find him on Twitter. I'm not going to be able to pop it up right here, but look for Hex 3D on Twitter. He does terrific stuff. All you have to be is like a $10 Patreon supporter, and you get all of his mods, or excuse me, all of his models.
You got mods in your head, man.
Got mods in my head.
Yep.
So this was done in one shot on the Ender 5 Plus, and it turned out terrific. And I am working on a video where I show how I'm going to finish that. I got leather straps coming. It's going to be awesome. In terms of the mods that I'm doing, I have big tree tech boards. I have SD card slots. I've got USB dongles and new displays. And so most of you guys know that I've been working on the complete sort of comparison and firmware and everything for the Ender 5 Plus, because I know a lot of people want to replace their main boards. I obviously want to send a shout out to Tripods Garage. Please check out his channel. He's already done his mod. He's got an hour and a half long video about him doing his mod. He did a terrific job on that. And so if you want a preview of what I'm doing or an alternative to what I'm doing, go check out his channel. But I'm going to be releasing my firmware depending on whether you go with the Mini E3, which is the drop-in replacement board, or the Turbo, which is a much more complicated replacement board. So if you're going with either one of those, stay tuned. Because that's what's coming up next on my channel, along with the review of this little guy, which I showed here, this ECube Maker
DIY 4-in-1.
Yeah, man, these names.
It's a mouthful, man.
Oh, man. Anyway, so that's what's going on with me. Again, thank you so much for everyone that tuned in. I think I saw a maximum of, we topped over 50 people in the chat at one point. Awesome. That was terrific. And we'll do this again. So I'm doing these once a week, or trying to. I think last week was the first week I've skipped in probably a month. I'm going to keep trying to do these. So please join me here. I think next week I'm going to try to have a new guest, but ModBot's sure going to be back if he will come.
Yeah, totally. Let me know and I will. I'd love to do this again. It's a lot of fun.
All right. Well, thanks, guys. It has been terrific, and I will see you guys later.